What if some of the strangest places on Earth weren't created by imagination, but by nature, chemistry, and human obsession pushed to their limits? Scattered across the planet are wonders so surreal they appear unreal, challenging everything we think we know about landscapes, color, and design. In China's Yandang Mountain, fearless adventurers suspend themselves high above the ground, clinging to narrow roots carved into towering cliffs, where courage is tested not by strength, but by the ability to face open air beneath their feet. Half a world away in Australia, Lake Hillier glows an impossible shade of pink, its vivid color produced by microscopic life and mineral chemistry, turning an entire lake into what looks like liquid paint poured onto the earth. And deep within China's Yelang Valley, massive stone pillars, carved into haunting human faces, rise from the ground, forming a bizarre architectural world that feels more like an ancient dream or a warning than a tourist site. How do such places exist? What forces, natural, cultural, or psychological, shape landscapes this extreme? Join us as we explore Earth's most surreal wonders, where science meets mystery and reality becomes stranger than fiction. Yandang Mountain. Yandang Mountain rises from eastern China like a fractured wall of stone, shaped by volcanic eruptions more than 100 million years ago. Its cliffs are not simply steep, they are nearly vertical, formed from hardened lava layers fractured by tectonic pressure and relentless erosion. To explore these heights, engineers carved a daring path directly into the rock. Steel cables anchored by thousands of metal bolts drilled deep into basalt faces, some installed at heights exceeding 1,000 feet above the valley floor. Construction crews worked suspended in mid-air, battling wind, moisture, and gravity itself. Today, climbers move across these routes with nothing but harnesses, gloves, and trust in cable systems barely thicker than a wrist. Below them, mist-filled gorges swallow sound and scale. The mountain's geography creates sudden weather shifts, with fog forming in minutes and temperatures dropping sharply. Every step becomes a calculation, every pause a confrontation with exposure. On Yandang Mountain, geology, engineering, and human courage collide at the edge of survival, where the line between solid ground and open void is measured in inches. Yelang Valley. Hidden deep in the mountains of Guizhou province, Yelang Valley feels less like a tourist site and more like an unfinished chapter of human imagination carved into stone. This surreal landscape was created over more than 20 years by a single local artist who transformed limestone cliffs into towering statues reaching heights of over 10 meters. The valley's geology is dominated by karst rock, soft enough to carve yet strong enough to endure centuries of erosion. Massive stone heads with hollow eyes stare silently across narrow ravines, their expressions inspired by ancient Yelang tribal legends that vanished nearly 2,000 years ago. Construction here defied logic. No heavy machinery, no modern cranes, only manual labor, ropes, and sheer persistence. Each column and face follows the natural fractures of the rock, turning geological weakness into architectural strength. Surrounded by mist, dense forest, and echoing silence, Yelang Valley stands as a haunting fusion of myth, stone, and human obsession. An outdoor monument where history, geology, and imagination collide. On the black sands of Soheimasandur lies one of Iceland's most haunting landmarks, the remains of a US Navy DC-3 aircraft that crash-landed in 1973. All crew members survived, but the abandoned fuselage has stayed ever since, slowly weathered by Arctic winds. Resting on a volcanic desert shaped by centuries of eruptions, the wreck sits just a few hundred yards from the roaring Atlantic, yet completely isolated. Here, metal and nature collide, the stark white frame against endless black sand creates a scene that feels almost extraterrestrial, a reminder of how powerful Iceland's raw landscape truly is. National Palace of Pina. Rising above the misty hills of Sintra, the National Palace of Pena looks less like a royal residence and more like a dream carved from color and stone. Built in the mid-19th century on the ruins of a medieval monastery, this palace stands at an elevation of nearly 500 meters above sea level, where Atlantic winds collide with mountain forests. Its architecture defies a single identity, blending neo-Gothic towers, Moorish arches, Renaissance details, and romantic imagination into one improbable silhouette. Construction demanded extraordinary effort. Materials were hauled uphill by sand and animal power, while foundations were anchored directly into rugged granite bedrock. From above, the palace appears to float within a sea of deep green forest, surrounded by over 200 hectares of exotic trees imported from 5 continents. Pena is not just a building, it is a carefully engineered illusion, designed to dominate geography, challenge gravity, and transform a mountain into a living work of art. Crystal Cave. Hidden deep beneath the Chihuahuan Desert of northern Mexico lies the Crystal Cave of Nika, a place that feels less like Earth and more like a frozen moment inside a living planet. Discovered nearly 1,000 feet underground, this chamber was shaped by a rare geological balance: mineral-rich groundwater, stable temperatures above 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and slow crystallization over roughly 500,000 years. The result is a forest of giant selenite crystals, some stretching over 30 feet in length and weighing up to 55 tons, making them the largest natural crystals ever recorded. Each crystal grew molecule by molecule as calcium sulfate slowly precipitated from hot hydrothermal fluids rising along deep fault lines. The cave's extreme heat and nearly 100% humidity reveal how fragile this equilibrium is. Once water levels dropped, crystal growth stopped forever. Seen together, these translucent beams form sharp geometric corridors that reflect light like glass architecture carved by geology itself. The Crystal Cave is not just beautiful, it is a scientific snapshot of Earth's hidden processes, preserved in silence beneath solid rock. Lake Retba, Senegal, also known as the Pink Lake, feels less like a place on Earth and more like a scientific illusion brought to life. Located about 30 kilometers northeast of Dakar, this shallow lagoon sits at sea level and is separated from the Atlantic by a narrow band of dunes. Its famous pink color is not paint, pollution, or reflection. It is biology. The lake's water can reach salinity levels of over 40%, nearly as salty as the Dead Sea. In these extreme conditions, a microscopic organism called Dunaliella salina thrives, producing red pigments to protect itself from intense sunlight. When sunlight intensifies, the lake deepens in color, shifting from soft rose to vivid crimson. Beneath the surface lies a thick crust of salt, sometimes reaching several meters deep. For generations, local workers have harvested this salt by hand, entering the water for hours each day, coating their skin with shea butter for protection. Each year, an estimated 300,000 tons of salt are extracted, forming white pyramids that contrast sharply with the pink water and golden sand. From above, Lake Retba appears like a living color experiment, where chemistry, climate, and human survival intersect in one of Earth's most surreal landscapes. The Crystal Ice Cave is one of Iceland's most stunning natural wonders, formed each winter deep inside the massive Vatnajökull glacier. Here, centuries of compressed snowfall turn into ultra-clear ice, filtering sunlight into shimmering shades of sapphire and turquoise. Some sections of the cave are shaped by meltwater rivers that carve tunnels through ice more than 3,000 feet thick. Because glaciers move a few feet each day, the Crystal Ice Cave is never the same from one season to the next. Its walls shift, its chambers breathe, and its colors evolve. Entering it feels like stepping into a frozen cathedral, sculpted by time and illuminated by Earth's purest light. Sanctuary of Madonna. Perched against a sheer limestone cliff in northern Italy, the Sanctuary of Madonna della Corona appears less built than anchored to the mountain itself. Its origins trace back over 1,000 years, when hermits carved sacred space into the vertical rock of Monte Baldo, nearly 2,500 feet above the Adige Valley. The geology here is rigid Jurassic limestone, fractured yet stable, an unforgiving surface that forced medieval builders to invent gravity-defying solutions. Walls were keyed directly into the cliff face, foundations drilled into stone rather than soil. Materials were hauled by hand along narrow mule paths, a process that took decades and tested human endurance as much as faith. The church's architecture follows the mountain's contours, with chapels stacked like ledges, creating a rare fusion of natural geology and human devotion, where engineering becomes an act of belief suspended between sky and stone. Dedvlei, hidden deep within Namibia's Namib-Naukluft Desert, looks less like a place on Earth and more like a frozen moment in geological time. Around 900 years ago, a rare flood allowed camel thorn trees to grow here. But shifting dunes, some rising over 300 meters, cut off the water entirely. Today, the climate is so arid, with annual rainfall often below 1 inch, that the trees never decomposed. Instead, they stand scorched black against blinding white clay and red sand. Daytime temperatures can climb above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, yet life persists at the margins. From above, Dedvlei appears as a stark diagram of climate change, wind power, and survival, where time, heat, and sand collaborate to create one of the most surreal desert landscapes on the planet. Litlihrutur is a modest mountain volcano rising about 312 meters, roughly 1,024 feet, on Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula. After nearly 8 centuries of silence, this region awakened when deep magma pushed upward beneath the crust. On July 10, 2023, a fissure about 900 meters long tore open north of the mountain, sending glowing lava across the landscape and producing plumes visible from space. Geologically, Litlihrutur sits on a rift where Earth's crust slowly pulls apart, making it a natural laboratory for understanding how new land is created. Red Beach. Red Beach in China feels less like a shoreline and more like a living painting shaped by science. Located in Panjin, Liaoning Province, this surreal coast turns crimson not from sand, but from a salt-tolerant plant called Suaida salsa. Each autumn, when salinity rises and temperatures drop, chlorophyll fades and red pigments dominate, transforming nearly 4 square kilometers into a glowing scarlet wetland. Beneath the color lies a unique coastal geology where river sediment meets tidal flats rich in minerals. Salinity levels here can exceed 3%, hostile to most plants, yet perfect for this ecosystem. From above, Red Beach looks unreal, proof that chemistry, climate, and geography can quietly collaborate to create one of Earth's most striking natural illusions. Koh Phangan. Imagine a village that floats between sea and stone. Koh Phangan, in southern Thailand, was built entirely on wooden stilts over shallow coastal waters beside a towering limestone cust that rises more than 300 feet straight from the sea. Founded over 200 years ago by Malay fishermen, the village adapted to geography rather than resisting it. With no natural land to claim, homes, walkways, even a floating soccer field were engineered above tidal flats, where water levels can shift by several feet each day. Marine limestone geology shelters the bay, reducing wave energy and allowing long-term settlement. Today, Koh Phangan stands as a living example of how human architecture evolves in harmony with extreme coastal landscapes. Lake Hillier. Lake Hillier, on Middle Island off Australia's southern coast, looks less like water and more like a brushstroke of bubblegum paint. Stretching roughly 600 meters long and bordered by white salt and deep blue ocean, its color is permanent, even when the water is bottled. Scientists link this surreal pink hue to microscopic algae and salt-loving bacteria that thrive in salinity levels close to that of the Dead Sea. Formed thousands of years ago through coastal isolation and evaporation, Lake Hillier is a rare geological and biological experiment, quiet, remote, and still defying our expectations of what a lake should look like. Spotted Lake. Imagine a lake that looks less like nature and more like a living mosaic painted by science itself. Spotted Lake, located in British Columbia, Canada, is one of Earth's most surreal natural laboratories. During summer, evaporation removes nearly all surface water, revealing hundreds of circular mineral pools separated by natural ridges. Each pool forms as magnesium sulfate, calcium, and sodium crystallize, creating colors that shift from deep emerald to amber yellow and chalky white. Scientists have measured mineral concentrations here, reaching nearly 10 times higher than nearby freshwater lakes. Geologically, the basin traps groundwater rich in minerals from surrounding volcanic rock, while intense sunlight accelerates evaporation. To indigenous Okanagan peoples, this lake has been sacred for thousands of years, proof that long before modern science, humans recognized its rare and powerful nature. Kerlingarfjöll is a striking mountain range in Iceland's central highlands, shaped by ancient volcanoes and sculpted by geothermal heat. Rising nearly 4,900 feet, these mountains sit in a landscape where steam vents, boiling springs, and sulfur-stained hills create colors that look almost unreal. Temperatures underground can reach well above 200 degrees Fahrenheit, feeding a geothermal field that spans more than 12 square miles. Once covered by massive Ice Age glaciers, Kerlingarfjöll still bears the marks of that frozen past. Deep valleys, sharp ridges, and mineral-rich slopes that continue to evolve as heat and ice battle beneath the surface. Here, geology feels alive, and every ridge tells a chapter of Iceland's fiery history. Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, stretching between Israel and Jordan, is one of the most extreme aquatic environments on Earth. Sitting at more than 1,400 feet below sea level, it is the lowest exposed point on land. Geologically, this basin lies along the Dead Sea Transform Fault, where tectonic plates slowly pull apart, trapping mineral-rich water with no natural outlet. Evaporation under intense desert heat concentrates salts to extraordinary levels. Salinity here reaches over 30%, nearly 10 times saltier than the open ocean. This chemical overload prevents fish and plants from surviving, giving rise to the name Dead Sea. Yet scientifically, it is far from lifeless. Unique microbes thrive, and dense waters allow humans to float effortlessly, turning geology into a surreal physical experience. Moiraki boulders. Scattered along Kokohe Beach on New Zealand's South Island, the Moiraki boulders look unreal, yet their origin is purely geological. These massive stone spheres formed over millions of years on the ancient sea floor, beginning as small mineral cores inside soft marine mud. Layer by layer, calcite slowly crystallized outward, creating near-perfect spheres through a process called concretion. Some boulders reach more than 6 feet across and weigh several tons. As coastal erosion stripped away the surrounding rock, waves revealed their cracked honeycomb surfaces, shaped by internal mineral shrinkage and constant surf, turning science into natural sculpture. Studligil Canyon is a hidden geological marvel in eastern Iceland, famous for its towering basalt columns that rise like a forest of stone. The canyon stretches roughly 3 miles long, carved over centuries by the glacial Jökla River, which still flows with striking turquoise waters. Some basalt pillars reach over 100 feet high, formed from slow-cooling lava that fractured into geometric perfection. This dramatic interplay of water and volcanic rock creates a surreal, almost otherworldly landscape. Salar de Uyuni. Stretching across southwestern Bolivia, Salar de Uyuni is the largest salt flat on Earth, covering more than 4,000 square miles. It was born when ancient prehistoric lakes evaporated, leaving behind a crust of salt several meters thick, layered with lithium-rich brine beneath. During the rainy season, a thin film of water spreads evenly across the surface, transforming the salt flat into a flawless natural mirror. This effect happens because the ground is almost perfectly flat, with height variations of less than 1 inch across miles. The result is a surreal landscape where sky and land dissolve into one, making Salar de Uyuni both a geological archive of Earth's past and one of the most visually astonishing places on the planet. Iceland's lupine fields transform the summer landscape into sweeping carpets of violet and blue. These Arctic lupines, introduced in the 20th century to combat soil erosion, now cover thousands of acres across the island's volcanic plains. Each plant can grow nearly 3 feet tall, thriving in nutrient-poor soil where few other species survive. From June to August, the flowers bloom in dense waves that contrast sharply with black sand, mossy lava fields, and snowy peaks. Waitomo. Hidden beneath the rolling green hills of New Zealand's North Island, Waitomo is a limestone cave system shaped by underground rivers over millions of years. These caves are carved from ancient marine sediments, slowly dissolved by slightly acidic water to form vast chambers and winding tunnels. What makes Waitomo truly surreal is the glowworm, a species found almost nowhere else on Earth. Thousands of these tiny creatures emit a soft blue-green light through a chemical reaction inside their bodies, similar to bioluminescence in the deep sea. The glow helps them attract prey, turning the cave ceiling into a living constellation. When visitors drift silently through the darkness by boat, the cave feels like a natural planetarium, where geology, biology, and time combine to create one of the most magical underground landscapes on the planet. Rising unexpectedly from the arid edge of Nevada's Black Rock Desert, Fly Geyser is not a natural geyser in the traditional sense, but a rare geological accident shaped by geothermal forces. Water heated deep underground, reaching temperatures near boiling, carries dissolved minerals upward. As the water cools, minerals like calcium carbonate, slowly solidify, building cone-like terraces year after year. Today, Fly Geyser stands more than 10 feet tall, constantly spraying mineral-rich water. Thermophilic algae thrive in the warm flow, painting the rock in vivid reds, greens, and golds. It is a living sculpture where geology, heat, and time collaborate in plain sight. Rediscover is Iceland's most dramatic black sand beach, formed from volcanic basalt ground into fine grains by centuries of ocean waves. Towering basalt columns rise like cathedral walls along the shore, while offshore stand the Reynisdrangar sea stacks, jagged pillars shaped by relentless Atlantic storms. Waves here are powerful enough to surge dozens of feet in seconds, a reminder of the raw energy that defines Iceland's southern coast. This otherworldly shoreline combines geology and myth, where ancient lava flows, roaring surf, and stark black sands create one of the most striking coastal landscapes on Earth. Three Drangaviti Lighthouse stands on a lone sea stack in the North Atlantic, one of the most remote and dramatic lighthouse locations on Earth. Built in 1939, it rises from a cliff that drops straight into pounding waves, with the rock summit only a few dozen feet wide. Early builders had to scale the sheer basalt face by hand, long before helicopters could reach the site. Surrounded by turbulent seas and constant winds, the lighthouse marks a dangerous stretch of coastline where storms can strike with incredible force. The Geyser geothermal area is one of Iceland's most active volcanic zones, where superheated water and steam rise from deep beneath the Earth's crust. Here, underground temperatures can exceed 400 degrees Fahrenheit, building immense pressure that sends boiling water erupting skyward. The most famous feature, Strokkur, erupts every few minutes, launching a column up to 100 feet high. Surrounded by bubbling pools, sulfur vents, and mineral-stained earth, this landscape reveals the raw power of a planet still shaping itself, an open window into the geothermal forces that fuel Iceland's volcanic heart. Thingvellir National Park is one of the only places on Earth where you can walk directly between two drifting continents. Here, the North American and Eurasian plates pull apart by about 1 inch each year, stretching the land and creating deep fissures filled with crystal-clear glacial water. The park sits on a rift valley formed over thousands of years by earthquakes and volcanic forces. Beyond its geology, Thingvellir carries immense history. It's where Iceland's first National Assembly gathered more than 1,000 years ago. Vatnajökull is Europe's largest glacier, spanning over 5,000 square miles and reaching ice thicknesses of more than 3,000 feet in places. Its vast frozen expanse covers active volcanoes, rugged mountains, and deep glacial rivers, making it a dynamic landscape where fire and ice coexist. Meltwater channels carve tunnels and caves beneath the surface, while seasonal shifts reshape its massive ice cap year after year. As one of Iceland's most powerful natural forces, Vatnajökull offers scientists a living laboratory for studying climate change, glacial movement, and volcanic activity, all while inspiring awe with its endless blue-white wilderness. Reykjadalur, meaning Steam Valley, is a geothermal wonder tucked into Iceland's Hengil volcanic area. Here, hot springs bubble up from beneath the earth, heating rivers to temperatures warm enough for bathing, sometimes reaching nearly 140 degrees Fahrenheit underground. The valley stretches for several miles, surrounded by steam rising from fumaroles and mineral-rich soil stained in shades of red, yellow, and green. Hiking through Reykjadalur, visitors witness the raw power of geothermal energy at work, where tectonic heat transforms cold mountain rivers into naturally warm pools, offering a rare glimpse of Earth's inner heat in action. Sólheimajökull is a dramatic outlet glacier extending from the larger Mýrdalsjökull ice cap in southern Iceland. Its surface is a rugged mix of blue ice, deep crevasses, and streaks of volcanic ash carried from eruptions over centuries. In some places, The ice is hundreds of feet thick, slowly flowing downhill as it carves the surrounding valley. This glacier is also a powerful indicator of climate change, retreating by dozens of feet each year and exposing new lagoons where solid ice once stood. Walking across Solheimajökull feels like stepping onto a living, shifting landscape shaped by fire, frost, and time. Vidsekur is a striking basalt formation, rising nearly 50 feet from the waters of Huna Bay in northern Iceland. Shaped by thousands of years of ocean erosion, the sea stack stands like a stone creature drinking from the sea, its arches carved by relentless waves and its surface streaked white by nesting seabirds. Formed from an ancient volcanic plug, Vidsekur is one of the last remnants of a long-extinct crater. Landmannalaugar, in Iceland's central highlands, is a volcanic wonderland known for its multicolored rhyolite mountains, steaming geothermal vents, and lava fields shaped over thousands of years. Peaks here rise nearly 3,000 feet, painted in shades of red, yellow, green, and blue by mineral-rich deposits. Hot springs bubble in the valleys, allowing hikers to soak in naturally heated pools surrounded by dramatic volcanic terrain. This remote region is part of the Fjallabak Nature Reserve and offers scientists and adventurers alike a vivid glimpse of Iceland's dynamic geology, where fire, ice, and tectonic forces converge to create one of the most otherworldly landscapes on Earth. Veria is one of Iceland's most extreme geothermal zones, where boiling mud pots, hissing fumaroles, and sulfur-stained earth reveal the intense heat just beneath the surface. Underground temperatures can soar past 400 degrees Fahrenheit, driving steam through vents that open across the volcanic plain. The ground here is thin, restless, and constantly reshaped by shifting geothermal pressure. Sitting at the base of Namafjall Mountain, Veria offers a rare glimpse into Earth's inner engine, an alien-like landscape where chemistry, heat, and tectonic forces collide in a dramatic display of raw planetary energy. The Blue Lagoon is a geothermal wonder formed from mineral-rich seawater that flows up from nearly 6,000 feet below the surface. Heated by volcanic energy, the water hovers around 100 degrees Fahrenheit and is naturally infused with silica, algae, and sulfur, minerals that give the lagoon its iconic milky blue glow. The surrounding lava field, more than 800 years old, frames the lagoon with jet-black rock. This otherworldly spa is both natural and scientific, a place where geothermal engineering and Iceland's volcanic forces create a warm, mineral world unlike anywhere else on Earth.